and welcome to the World Football Show here on Sports Tonight Live. I'm Mina Rzouki and I'm with you today and joined as usual by my wonderful co-host Gab Marcotti. Hello Gab.
Hello, that would be me. And guess what? I think there's somebody else with us.
Oh, please say it's true.
We're joined by Mr. Raphael Honigstein.
Hello.
Our German correspondent and, well, apparently now you know a little bit about everything.
Yeah, I do. Of course I do.
Yeah, well, you are also our culture the culture expert on ESPN.
Yes.
What a great show that was.
It always is when Italian football is involved.
Oh, I'm so glad we're finally getting you to admit that. But Gab, what are we starting with today?
Well, he's an expert on Germany. He's an expert on Italy. He's an expert on England because he lives here, covers the good fortune of covering the Premier
let's
League.
not just talk about how wonderful this guy is.
No, continue. I like that. I like where this
Why don't you do this
conversation is
with my
going.
ego?
Let's see if he can handle La Liga, where, of course, Real Madrid opening up a 7-point lead. Only once has a team with a 7-point lead at this stage of the season lost the title, and that was Real Madrid back in 2004, managed by Carlos Queiroz. And anybody want to hazard a guess who he lost the title to?
Rafa Benitez.
That's right, Valencia's Rafa Benitez.
What happened this season?
Won his second Liga. It was actually an 8-point lead that they squandered at the time. But
Well,
basically, a point, Mourinho's in the driving seat at this point after Barcelona's draw against Villarreal at the weekend. And there's this huge story that came out, and I think we all know it was in the Sunday Times, it was in the National in Abu Dhabi. It was written by a colleague of ours, a friend of ours, we can say, named Duncan Castles, who basically quotes a source close to Mourinho. And Rafi, when we journalists write a source close to, what do we actually mean?
We mean
99% of the time.
We mean
Or a friend of.
I got a call from the management, from someone from the coaching staff, from his brother.
Yeah, it's code.
Yeah,
Is it ever him directly?
I think it is him directly.
Right, okay.
Could be.
So this is out there now that he wants to leave La Liga at the end of the season and then wants to return to the Premier League. I mean, how do you read this? Is this a way of, because he's pulled this kind of stuff before, is this a way of throwing his toys out and sort of like respect me a little more or you might lose me?
Well, think about it. We're no longer talking about Barcelona winning and them losing against them in the Clásico. It's just a way of him regaining control, of saying it's all about me, which is a real shame because at the moment it is all about Real Madrid, you know. They're 7 points clear. They're the team to look at right now. But this is just his way of regaining control, trying to become the bigger person. Unfortunately, Real Madrid is far too big for him to treat it the way that he's treated Chelsea and Inter and all the, you know, even Porto. This is a team with an actual history. But do I think he's going to leave? There's a good chance that he will actually leave. And I know that he's had this massive love story with the Premier League. You're not
Yeah.
Well, by the way, sorry, on that point, you know, the Inter Milan, who have won more European Cups than all but 3 teams in the history of the universe, and have won 50% more European Cups than a small ditty team with no history called Juventus. They thank you for the love and support for saying they have no history.
I'm really sorry. I'm not saying that they don't have a history, but you cannot deny that what in terms of Juventus and Inter, Juventus are something that have been owned by Agnelli, a club that have been owned by Agnelli since the 20s.
Oh, yeah.
Shall we just go back to Spain for a moment? Time out. Let's go back to Spain.
Go back to Spain, Rafa, your take on
the
Mourinho.
point is
Also that they have a clearly defined style in which Inter didn't have and needed
Yes.
someone to sort of help them
Yes,
out. That's
yes.
all I meant.
I think 2 things are important here. A, he's pulled the trick before. In January 2007, there was almost the identical story. I want to leave Chelsea. I've had enough.
Yeah.
At the time, he was very much feuding with the owner, Abramovich. He wanted a message to be out. In the end, they patched up the differences in the summer, but it wasn't quite enough to halt the decline in relations, and we know what happened 6 weeks into the season when he was fired. So I think we have to see it in that context. And also, you know, if he had already a deal lined up with the Premier League, then this story wouldn't have come out because he would have kept very quiet.
Well,
I read it very much as a,
Good point.
I would like to leave. Let's see what my offers are. Please think about me. Keep me in mind. You know, in 4 months' time, I'm very much available. Because if there was a deal already, I think he would have handled things
Where
very
can
differently.
he go other than
well,
really
there
this
isn't
was
Manchester
I mean,
City?
that was the other fun part of the story, the way it was written. It was like like, which one will he choose?
Yeah.
And they had a list of teams like that, like, you know. And
not that these teams actually want him.
Look at these 6 clubs, with the exception of Spurs, where it's very likely they'll have a new manager next year. The other managers are more or less, you know, none of these people are being talked about as being sort of being definite leaders. I thought that was kind of humorous too. But we want to get Tim Stannard's take on it. Tim, you might know him as the La Liga Loca blogger from 442. Tim.
Good evening.
How are you?
Very well, thank you very much. A bit chesty today, so let's excuse my deep and sexy voice for a change.
Well, we always like deep and sexy over here. Tell us, Tim, what are they saying in the... don't look at me like that. What are they saying in the Spanish newspapers about this? Because obviously all the news is coming from England, so they're the last to know. What are they reporting on it, especially Marca?
Well, I disagree that this is actually... England's the last to know. This has been something that's been going on Mourinho now for the last 2 or 3 weeks, and articles have been written here in Spain and from Spanish correspondents saying the same thing. Mourinho's end is nigh, basically. He's just fallen out with the press, fallen out with the president, quite possibly fallen out with his players. And when you go and see him in press conferences, you see his body language. He just looks utterly, utterly miserable. And that's actually one of Mourinho normally does that anyway. He's hardly a happy-go-lucky person. But he doesn't seem to be enjoying 1 second of his experience at Real Madrid at the moment. And you just get the feeling he just wants to win this league title, try and get something from the Champions League, and just get out. How he leaves, though, is going to be the interesting one, because one could cost him a lot of money if he walks out on his contract, which is 4 years.
Tim, managers have won league titles and even Champions League titles at Madrid before, but still left very much unloved, unheralded. I'm thinking of Capello, Jupankis. Do you think we're looking at the same scenario, that even if he does win and break Barcelona's monopoly over the last few years, he still will not be seen by the Madrid press and by the Madrid fans as someone who's achieved something great?
Well, I hear 2 different things, so I'm speaking to 2 Madrid fans of 2 totally different opinion. One of them is anti-Mourinho, and he says, although he sees that he's doing well, he just wants him out. He's fed up with all the controversy and the kind of the dirt, you could say, is bringing down on the club. You think about the most recent one when he was waiting for the referee after the Barcelona game in the car parking lot at the Camp Nou and insulting him, which
Can I say something? That's horrible. Well, hanging around in an empty car park waiting for the referee. I mean, what, was he wearing like a grey Mac as well? And I mean,
well,
it just reflects so badly on this guy. Sorry, Tim.
The interesting thing about it, he actually made sure this was known, because maybe no one would have found out, but his spokesman on Twitter, Eladio Paremes, said that this is what Mourinho did. But there's one side of the Madrid fans say that they want him to go. The other side will say, you know what, you don't know how lucky you are to have him. We're actually beating Barcelona and we're catching up on him. If he leaves, we'll be back 2-3 years behind again. It won't be the same. So there'll almost be a kind of fan civil war if Mourinho goes. Some are very, very pro, some are very against. He just polarizes opinion like he does everywhere.
I'm just waiting, from the club's perspective, given that he's come out and said this, obviously he's got this ironclad, or supposedly ironclad, long-term contract. Those are the types of contracts that he likes to sign, that George Mendes likes to get him to sign. It was like that at Inter, which is why Real Madrid had to spend 18 million euros just to get him released from the contract. I mean, could there be a scenario where Real Madrid turn around and stick 2 fingers up and say, you know what, you want to go to Manchester City or Liverpool or wherever? That's fine. They got to come and pay us an enormous amount of money, and we're willing to eat your wages and keep you here, put you in a little cage like a little monkey perhaps, you know, because of the damage that you've done. If the wind changes, if Florentino feels he has to distance himself from Mourinho, maybe with an eye towards the election. So could you see a scenario like that?
I think there could be a clean break where he agrees to go. Maybe he agrees to give up the remaining money on his contract, which he wouldn't have to pay, in the same way that if he was sacked, he wouldn't get the money either. I think Florentino Perez has an election coming up in a year or two, and if he has a very unhappy Mourinho there, you can imagine. At the moment, he's behaving reasonably well compared to how he could be. Imagine if he was being forced to stay as Real Madrid manager, how he'd be like in that situation. It would be intolerable. So I see a sort of a mutual consent departure, I think, over the summer, where Mourinho doesn't have to buy out his contract, and Florentino Perez basically gets rid of him and doesn't have to sack him and pay off his contract either.
I see that happening too, but I want to move on to Barcelona and the fact that obviously they drew against Villarreal, who are struggling themselves. But I also kind of want to bring your attention to this quote with Xavi. You see, I found it to be a little hypocritical, but I'm not allowed to say that in front of these two. But after the Clásico, he was complaining about Real Madrid complaining and the fact that they were sore losers, to which Madrid responded saying, well, we don't know how to lose because we never do. And then against Villarreal, he talked about and complained about the referee. So what's going on there? Do Barcelona not know how to lose?
Well, Xavi Hernandez, the first one was a little bit unfair. That quote looks like it comes from an interview he did with Barcelona TV, but it was basically just chatting away with the journalists as they do before the cameras are rolling, you could say. But someone recorded that and released it to El Mundo, so it's just him chatting away. So
I think it was Elijah Parames who did it. What do you think?
So, yeah, you never know. It's highly political because Barcelona TV was its own entity, but then it was sold to MediaPro, who run it, and MediaPro is seen as quite Madrid-based and Madridista a little bit as well. So heaven knows who's behind that one.
Okay.
Yeah, it's all conspiracies and politics here. But no, they're having a little bit of a moan as well. But both sides do when they're winning. Well, even when losing, so there's no real surprise there. And the press are now saying that they got it. The anti-Villarato. The Villarato was a concept invented by AS that said the president of the Spanish FA was pro-Barca, hated Madrid. The Barca press are now saying the anti-Villarato is in place, where to counteract it, they're actually giving more decisions against Barcelona to counteract any ones you thought were given to them before. It's ludicrous, to tell you the truth.
Tim, I didn't see the game, but in a nutshell, did they deserve only to draw, or was it a travesty? And secondly, in your view, do Barcelona now actually feel that they have blown this, that the league is effectively over?
I had to admit, because I was at the Santiago Bernabeu and the Barcelona game was right after, that I didn't see the first half. But looking at the second half,
because I saw the game. Did you see the game?
Yeah, I saw a hot question.
They were poor.
Someone who saw the game, but from it's one of those where right at the end there was some big saves from Diego Lopez, and Barcelona could have, one of those could have gone in, but maybe
they hit
didn't
the
do
woodwork
enough
as well, and they had 2 penalty claims, which you sort of felt that maybe at home they would have been given. I mean, it wasn't like they were completely jobbed, but they could have easily ended up with the 3 points. But that doesn't change the fact, as you said, that they played poorly.
Well, yeah, they had over 12 shots. They didn't convert any. I mean, they had really 3 great chances. Messi missed one of them, which was so unlike Messi to do. But it just goes to show that, they're human.
And do they feel that they've blown this?
They're in big trouble because last week against Malaga was a devastating display from Barcelona away from home, with Messi scoring that hat-trick. Messi wasn't on form on Saturday night, and there was no one else there to help him.
Tim, I want to get something from you on Messi, though, because he played in the Copa del Rey against, was it Osasuna that he played against? He's played various games at various times when you wonder, shouldn't he be given a rest? Is there an issue with this guy wanting to always play, wanting to always get on the pitch, when in reality, I'm sure they have enough attacking players. They can, there's Cuenca, there's other people they can put out here. I mean, is he basically being overworked?
I don't think so, no, because if you saw him again last week, he was in outstanding form, and it's a brilliant hat-trick. But he is certainly a player, rather like Ronaldo, who gets very, very upset if he's either substituted or left on the bench. But at the moment, Pep Guardiola has to throw everything, basically, at the team to try and keep up with Real Madrid. And if he puts Messi on the bench, for example, had he not played Messi against Villarreal, had the same result, Guardiola would have been stoned by the Barcelona press, who was saying you've given up on the league. And, you could say now, well, he's playing him and he's overtired, but just maybe had a little bit of an off day. But I don't think he's been particularly out of form. Still scored 22 league goals.
No, certainly. But I do think with all their injuries, they need to be playing Messi, or it really does look like they've given up. But thank you so much for coming on, Tim, as usual. We'll obviously be speaking to you next week. Say bye from all of us. I wanted to talk to you guys about Mirandes and Espanyol, because that's something. I mean, Espanyol have been doing really well this season, and obviously they did really well against Barcelona. And then Mirandes comes along, and then it's like, bye-bye, Espanyol in the Copa del Rey.
I don't know what the Spanish for Romans of the Cup is, but there seems to be an equivalent with the Copa del Rey throwing up this kind of miracle. I mean, Mirandes, I think most of them are amateurs or sort of semi-pros. One of the players went home the next day, couldn't celebrate. He had to open the bank again at 8 in the morning because he runs the bank there. So all sorts of amazing stories.
That's such a nice story.
And it's great, but will they win the cup? Probably not.
No, they're not going to win the cup. So who's going to win the cup? So it's Barcelona's basically.
Well, I don't know. I mean, Valencia is actually.
Yeah, I mean, no, yeah, but Valencia have
right
been rather
now.
poor.
Yeah, but so have been Villarreal, and see what happened. I mean, right now, with Barcelona coming off this bad result, do you want to play against Valencia in the midweek in the Copa del Rey? It's not comfortable. It's not a great fixture for them, and they've got a lot more to lose than to win because, like you, everyone says, oh, of course, now it's a formality that the final was already played against Real Madrid last round. But, you know, Valencia, why not? Why can't they do it?
Well, I think also, I mean, just taking back to the league for a second, this idea that it's impossible to come from 7 points back, I look at it as it's really 4 points. Because they have the head-to-head at the.
It's not a foregone conclusion.
It's not a foregone conclusion, but
now that we know that Madrid can actually play them on that level.
No, but I'm saying that's
so skeptical.
You have to think in terms of can
Yeah.
Real Madrid drop 4 more points? Can
Yeah.
you make up 4 points over?
Yeah, it's
the
2 draws from Real Madrid.
It's difficult, but it's not impossible.
It's not impossible. No, it's definitely not a foregone conclusion, and it could be that Barcelona win it. But it would be nice if we can just. Have a little bit of difference for once and have another team winning it. If only it was a smaller team rather than Real Madrid. But anyway, that's all we have for on Spain. If you come back to us in a couple of minutes, we'll be talking my favourite subject. And now it's also Raf's favourite subject. So we'll see you in a couple of minutes. Hello and welcome back to the World Football Show. And now we're off to speak about my favourite subject, calcio. But this is like our favourite part of the whole Italian football thing, and it's because we love to see Bobo Vieri dancing on Dancing with the Stars. So we've got another little clip of him this week, and apparently he's gone downhill. So let's see what we think about that.
I should point out, for those who haven't figured out, Dancing with the Stars is Strictly Come Dancing. But it's the Italian version of it.
It's the Italian version. I think he's all right.
That's very good.
That's because you can't dance.
Hold on, is he the one in the dress? Oh, no, it's the other. Yeah, not so sure.
But look at the cheesy picture behind. Don't you love that?
To be fair, though, we've seen his evolution, and this type of dance is where he really struggles. I thought he was much better last week.
You thought so?
In a waltz and a tango, he's a little more into himself. This is whenever he's got to shake it about, any kind of Roomba, anything like that.
Yeah, but our producer said he was really awful. I don't think he was that bad. I mean, personally speaking, I wouldn't be able to manage that.
Well, for those who don't know, our producer, of course, is a professional dancer himself.
Yes,
So,
he was also a figure skater. He's going to love me for this.
He sets the bar very high.
Okay, Italy, into last, finally. Seven weeks in a row that they were winning. And of all time, all places and all teams to lose against, it was Lecce, the team that hasn't actually won at home.
But we should point something out here, and some of us called it, that the challenge for Ranieri was going to be what happens when Wesley Sneijder is fit again.
Yes, of course.
Can you integrate him in the lineup?
Totally. And he can't.
We talked about last week, well, I mean, nice of you to judge him after 45 minutes, but
it's okay.
Clearly the 4-3-1-2.
I'm very quick with judgments.
4-3-1-2 with Sneijder, this version of it.
Do you really think it was the formation was the issue?
Yeah,
no, it's
I
not.
thought.
Listen, I personally think that what he's done is, and I was having a conversation with a friend of mine yesterday, it's a question of he came into that team and he just put them in a straight 4-4-2 and was like, you know what, guys, just have fun, play your football, defend well, and just don't worry about the complicated things, let's keep things simple. And now with Sneijder coming back in, he's got to complicate matters. He's going to, he has to find a way of taking off, Alvarez, putting him on. That means they lose the width a little bit. They actually have to go for attack, in which they've been playing so defensively. And so it all becomes a little bit, a little bit complicated for them, and they're not quite sure how to deal with this new found, rather, attacking sort of play that they'll have to play with Sneijder in it.
Well, I mean, I think either you ask Sneijder to do what Alvarez used to do, so start wide and come inside.
But you can't make Sneijder do that.
I think the other problem
he did it very well last season.
No, but the big difference last season is they had different strikers.
Yes.
Because Milito wasn't there, and
Echa can do anything.
Pazzini came through this halfway through the season. You have Milito and Pazzini, I think you've got issues because
you need width.
I don't know that it's so. I mean, width you're okay, I think, with Michael and Nagatomo, but I think it's more the issue is they don't provide the work rate and the movement up front that meshes ideally for Sneijder. In this game, you saw Sneijder coming back and getting the ball in midfield, and then looking up, and then you knew what was going to happen.
Yeah.
Hit the ball over the top to one of the two of them. So he has to figure that out. I mean, I think it can be done, But what I would like to see is before, I'd like to see the energy guys and the young players. You know, I want to see Paulie, I want to see Obi, who came on and rowed with Snyder. But you want to see those people. You could even throw in Alvarez. I know you like Alvarez.
I do. I really
Ricky
like
Maravilla does
Maravilla.
nothing for me, but you know.
Yeah.
I don't know why you say that, because I think, you know, I mean, what are you expecting from him? This guy is a new league. You know, he's been placed. He was never really the center player before. I mean, he was always sort of the third best on that team, and then now he's coming to Inter. It's a new league. It's a new country. Surely, you know, he needs a bit of time, and he's done really well.
Maybe the problem should be that maybe Inter shouldn't be signing a third best player from a third-tier team in the Argentine league. But let's get Tancredi on this, who I'm sure. Tancredi.
Are you on your mobile?
Are you? Well, it's the transfer market.
Tancredi, I like what you've done to your place.
Well, actually, you know, it's just all a renovation. I have to explain you. It doesn't look like Roma, but it is Roma even if it is an Irish bar. And if I do like this, I can see exactly there the residence of Silvio Berlusconi. You will not trust me, but you should see the queue of chicks that there is outside the residence.
Hey, watch it. Silvio has more time on his hands. He probably watches this show. I don't want to get you into any kind of trouble there. But so
No, Silvio likes these things, don't worry.
Bombastic.
The verdict on this, Mina thinks it's hilarious that Inter finally lose when their best player returns and they lose at Lecce.
I didn't find it hilarious.
Can we blame it all on Snyder? Is there a deeper problem here for Claudio Ranieri? Were Inter unlucky?
Or are people not even giving Lecce their props because they deserve their props?
Well,
No.
Let's say that, of course, there is a deeper problem. And, of course, Gabriele, we have watched the last games, and Inter had a problem in developing their way to play. It was the same against Lazio. It was the same against Milan. They had the luck to have a good momentum from Milito. 2 shots in 2 games, 2 goals, 2 decisive goals. So, of course, there is also another problem. Still, Claudio Ranieri, when you have the man with the more quality than the others, and after the first half you decide to just replace him, it's a big question mark. I don't know if you heard what Schneider declared yesterday to the Dutch television, Sport 1. He said, talking about today, I still can't understand the reason why Ranieri has taken me out at the halftime, and today we have to speak about this issue. So I don't know really what happened today at the training camp of Inter.
I mean, personally, do you think that, I mean, at the end of the day, I don't know if this is so much Ranieri's fault, or it's the fact that Inter don't really know how to run their club very well, because it always should have been Schneider that should have gone. Gab is looking at me really disapprovingly.
No, I've said it for a long time. It's the worst run club in Europe. But
Yes, but...
you can't keep using it as an excuse for everything. You know, despite that, they also occasionally win.
No, I think Ranieri's done really well, but he seems to do only well when he has it. Actually, that's a lie. He did very well with Roma with the attacking players. Do you think it's a question of, with the 2 that you have, that you need crosses and you need to play a certain type of football that Wesley Sneijder can't play with?
Well,
And what
let's
Ricky
face it.
Alvarez can help with all his crossing?
Well, let's face it, Inter played, as we said, Milan and Lazio in the last 2 weeks. And even if they were playing at home, well, okay, one was the derby, but they were actually giving the space to the other team and then taking the chance to come out. And they were playing with 4-4-2, extremely defensive. When they played against Lecce, that is one of the most easy team to score in Serie A, probably Ranieri, after listening for 1 week, yes, you did 7 victories in a row, but you played bad. Probably Ranieri said, okay, Schneider now is fit, so I will try 4-3-1-2. And now that came the time that Inter has to make the game, there came out also the problem, because the midfield simply can't connect defend and attacking. That's the problem.
Yes.
Cambiasso and the others, they can make it. Simply, they can make it.
Tancredi, Mina's a bit sad today because she was reminded of the fact that the president of her club has one single eyebrow going across like this, kind of like Bert from Sesame Street. So I want to move it on to Juventus, because the good news is there's only one undefeated team in all of Europe in the top 5 leagues, and that is Juve. And it was a tricky game against Udinese, but I thought they played well. I mean, I think Udinese away from home aren't as good as they should be, but
I mean, you know, they had so many losses as well, poor Udinese. I mean, they were even sweating on Isla. But I mean, this was probably one of the best tactical battles because it's two of the greatest tacticians in Italy at the moment.
Let's take it easy on the
Okay, I don't think Conte is, but I certainly think Guidolin is the best tactician in Italy. Please, who is better?
Nobody likes Guidolin, you know that. In Italy, nobody likes him as a person.
Perhaps he may not have a great character.
So you know the thing.
But neither does Totti, yet he's still a legend. So.
Enough with Totti. Show Juve some love, please, yes?
Well, you said tactical game, Juventus Udinese. Usually when you say tactical game in Italy, it's up or something about kicking, running, no emotions. If Rafa, that is used to see the show of Bundesliga, watched Juventus Udinese on Saturday, well, it could be a Bundesliga game, but with quality. No, I'm joking.
Well done, Tancredi, well done.
More handsome players with better haircuts.
Yeah, like
Duran
Duran from the 80s, Matri looks.
Indeed,
At least Matri's handsome.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
Much nicer than looking at Ribery.
I took a cocktail with her a couple of weeks ago. Mamma mia, she's very handsome. Go on, sorry. I had to say that.
So tell us, what do you think? Do you think Juve deserve to be on top? And is it looking likely that they will win the actual Scudetto?
Well, it's the best team so far. I know that even if I can't see you, I know that you are smiling with 32 teeth in this moment. It's the best team at all in this moment in Italy, playing in the best way. And there was one Spanish manager that used to say, when you play good, even if you lose, maybe you don't get the food today, but you get a bakery for the rest of the season. And I think this is Conte is preparing a whole bakery for the rest of the season, even if Milan got this Ibrahimovic that you just can't stop. But there will be a moment in which Ibrahimovic will have to relax. There will be Champions League that Juventus will not play. And there will be the next month in which Milan will face real minor clubs. Instead, Juventus will have the semi-final of Coppa Italia. Okay, also Milan. But I'm sorry, I meant Milan will face big clubs, Juventus minor clubs. And that will be the turning point. Juventus, starting from here until end of February, Juventus can get an advantage of 5-6 points as long as they play so good. Could be the turning point for the 28th Scudetto of the Bianconeri.
Okay, I wanted to tell you about that. They lost one of those. Obviously, they finally got rid of Amauri, which was a huge plus for Juventus because of his wages and because it seemed like he was never going to leave them. I really want to talk about the fact, did you see the picture of the press conference in which you can actually see it now, and he's holding the Fiorentina scarf? Does that remind you of anything, guys?
He looks like Jesus.
He looks like Jesus on top of the Sugarloaf Mountain in Rio de Janeiro.
Exactly.
There we go. And it's just hilarious. And please look at his the way he was on the first game for Fiorentina, in which he was really unlucky to not actually have scored anything for them on the day.
And Luca Toni gone too. Going back to handsome Italian strikers, of which there are none in Germany.
I'm sure there are plenty at Juve.
Yeah. Luca Toni, after scoring, what, was it 40 goals a season in Germany? Then he moved to a tougher league and he stopped scoring.
Apparently he said that he would pay for free.
What?
He wanted to come back, but he was turned down.
Yeah, you know, I saw that comment.
That's because he
tough
doesn't
competition from Niels Peterson. But okay, but we'll get to
Van
that.
Hout dropping down his trousers.
He
misses that.
I just want to get you on Milan, because obviously they're defending champions. There's a lot of depth. I think there's still a percentage chance that Tevez might show up, but we will see by the time the show airs. That might be done and dusted. But Ibra is in fine form. Cagliari were terrible. I mean, do you think maybe with Mesba having a bit more depth and stuff, that maybe they can actually, that they're in the title hunt, and we should maybe be giving Milan a little more respect?
Well, no, I mean, the thing is that with that Ibra, that's true, everything is possible. The thing is that so far still we don't see Milan playing as someone that is gonna to be again champion. I mean, yesterday against Cagliari was such a poor performance from the rossoneri until Ibra unblocked the result.
Yes.
And he unblocked twice because he scored at first, but then the assist was something like a pure genius, pure invention. Mesba is a good signing because he's a good guy, he's putting efforts, could be useful. But as I said, they have a schedule that is much more busy. Tevez maybe can change the things. I have one small news. You are right, not everything is done, because today one of the FIFA agents, one of the 1,000 of FIFA agents that is involved in this business, Rizzo, if should be his surname, if I'm not mistaken.
Vittorio Rizzo, yeah, he's Kia's man in Italy.
Yeah, okay, perfect. I love this man. And, well, he arrived at the hotel, and yesterday, Galliani, leaving the stadium, he said, until the last moment, we see if we can make some coup de théâtre. So, with 24 hours still so far until the end, really, I wouldn't put my money on something that can be done, honestly.
Tancredi, do you think that Milan made a bit of a mistake talking up the possibility of Tevez coming? They briefed journalists saying, you know, Tevez will win us the Scudetto. They've kind of hyped the personality to the point where now, if he doesn't come, it's going to be a letdown and reflect perhaps badly on some of the rest of the team. Do you think they created a problem for themselves there, the way they handled this?
Definitely, that's a very good point, Rafa. Also, I remind that Galliani had planned to unveil Tevez before the derby, so the psychological effect there would be smashing for Inter. You are right, even if with this kind of form of Ibrahimovic, probably in around 1 week, everything would be already forgot, and there is a schedule that is bringing already in 2 weeks the Champions League, that probably, I mean, if they would have dropped points so far in these last weeks, probably there would be a kind of echo of this epic failure. But as long as so far Ibra is keeping going in that way, and even better, if Ibra goes in that way, probably nothing will happen.
Okay, thank you so much for all your answers, Tancredi. Tancredible, as we like to call you in this studio. Undoubtedly,
you're welcome. I will say hello to Berlusconi from you. Okay?
Yes, please. I was going to say give him my number, but absolutely not. Guys, what do you think, sir? We always said when it comes to Milan, and of course in the upcoming match against Arsenal, it's about who's going to be fit.
Yeah, I mean, Milan and Arsenal. Well, I think Milan have a big issue with the fixture plan. I think Tancredi is absolutely right. You look at the next games: Lazio, Napoli, Juve in the Cup, Juve in the League, Arsenal mixed in. It is really, and Udinese, I think, as well. It's a terrible fixture list with already 10 people injured. It means they can't rotate. They are hugely reliant on Ibra. And there is a sense that, unlike Juventus, and I think we had this discussion at the very first show, they don't really function as a team. They rely on the individual brilliance of individual moments of magic to win games.
I would so disagree with that if they were fit. Earlier in the season, when Ibra wasn't playing that well, when you had Aquilani in there, you know, all of a sudden in that midfield package, when you have Aquilani, Nocerino, and Fambomo, you compare it to when, you know, it was Ambrosini, Gattuso, and another sort of professional kicker. It was pretty, you know, you lack that fluidity. But without Cassano, without Aquilani, without Boa, then, as often happens with Ibrahimovic teams,
you end up leaning on him,
leaning on the big man. I mean, the worst Inter side I can remember was Mourinho's Inter with Ibra, where it really was, you know, lump
give it
the
to
ball.
Ibra.
Yeah,
We'll see what he does. But okay, now that we've spoken about all the good-looking players in Italy, we are going to go to a break and come back and speak about all the rather unattractive ones in the Bundesliga. Sorry.
Many to choose from.
But they've got very attractive journalists, you see,
then they
to balance things up.
That's perfect. You trying to say the Italian ones aren't his hands?
No.
Anyway, so do come to us after the break and you can listen to all we have to say. See you then. Hello and welcome back to the World Football Show here on Sports Night Live. I'm Mina and I'm joined by my usual guests, or rather my co-presenter Gab and our guests. We're going to be talking Germany, and we kind of had a little bit of a fight over the break. So you can tell us about this. Yeah, well, you were making fun of the way that I say my favourite team. Apparently I hate Bayern, I hate everyone that's not Juventus.
If you look closely, you might notice that Raf has a bit of a black eye, but we won't get into that for legal reasons. But Raf, obviously, we all talk about how exciting the Bundesliga is and has been. Packed houses, great stadia, It's very tight at the top. What is it, 4 teams within 3 points?
Within 1 point.
Within 1 point. But just because it's so exciting, Bayern said, ooh, we have to make it even more exciting by making this big announcement, which they sent via email to, I mean, even I got one on my BlackBerry, direct from Christian Nerlinger. Can you tell us more about this huge announcement?
Yes, on Thursday, 1 o'clock, they released on the homepage the message that they'd signed a big name, a big option for up front. And even quoting something that Uli Hoeneß, the president, had earlier said about somebody really needing to be there in case Mario Gomez is not available. So you get literally hundreds of thousands of Bayern fans tuning into this supposed press conference, only to see, first of all, the site crashed on Facebook, the Bayern site, and then once they did, you see, you're also checking.
It worked.
And once they did get through, it was just a really lame video of Christian Nerlinger and Philipp Lahm holding up a little sign that says, our new signing is you, and then the
picture of you comes up.
The picture of you would have come up if you'd seen it with your Facebook login. And of course, it was a huge letdown, unless somebody like Messi actually checked.
But you called it. You called it.
Exactly.
And then it would have been you.
Yeah.
You called it and said that you thought it was going to be sort of some bad marketing ploy.
Well, the problem is that some people knew about it and some didn't. So Bayern initially wanted to tip off the press before. But then in some of the trial versions, it didn't work, so they thought they'd keep it quiet. But of course, if you put an official message onto your webpage, people will pick it up and retweet, and agencies picked it up. So there was this huge expectation, and people saying, wow, it's amazing they kept it quiet this time. You know, usually everything leaks from Bayern, and people were very, very pissed off. Am I allowed to say that? People are very, very annoyed. And within the space of 30 minutes, I think that's something like 6,000 angry replies. And they had to apologise and they had to backtrack. And it was a spectacular own goal as far as PR is concerned.
It's disrespectful towards the fans as well, no? Would you say that?
I mean, you go back with the whole Bayern disrespecting their own fans thing. But yeah, it obviously wasn't the cleverest thing for a club that prides itself on having more commercial income than Liverpool and Manchester United combined. But Raphael, I wanted to ask you if we take it back onto the pitch with Bayern, because all season long, you know, I've been saying there's 2 outstanding teams in the world, and it's Barcelona and Real Madrid, and Bayern, I saw them as some kind of potential third force, ideally suited.
Certainly the Champions League, no?
I would have thought so.
Yeah.
But then, Badstuber, I think, gets worse every time I see him. I absolutely hate Boateng. Neuer makes mistakes, and he's making them more and more. And I'm starting to wonder if maybe last season wasn't the fluke, and this season he's closer to normal service. And
no, that would be unfair.
That would be unfair because he's got the physical tools, and he went through a very long run this year where he didn't allow a goal. But I'm just wondering now. I mean, Van Boyten's out now for a while. Is there really concerned?
They've certainly lost their rhythm over the winter break. I think it's fair to say they're not nearly as fluid, as devastating, as sort of irresistible as they were before the break. And I think it all started.
Irresistible. I think Mina has no problem resisting the charms of Bayern.
Yeah, I think they were.
I do actually enjoy watching them play. You know.
You see, I mean, they were irresistible to Mina, which takes some doing. So no. And you're right, and there is a sense of Heinkes perhaps wanting to fit everyone in. He loves Ribéry, he loves Robben, so they have to start. He also loves Kroos, so he has to be in, but he also likes Müller and Gomez, so they're all playing. But so far it hasn't really worked at all, and against Wolfsburg they got very lucky. Gomez scored a fluky goal from a set piece, and then Robben scored in the very last minute involuntarily. He basically got hit by the guy on the line. But there is just no sense of this team functioning.
The crappy defenders?
Yeah, functioning as well as they did. Well, I mean, defense wasn't an issue against Wolfsburg because they never attacked the whole 90 minutes.
Yeah.
But it will be in the Champions League, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean
that's
what we fought. But that's what we fought. That's what we fought against against City and against Napoli. And for some reason that wasn't the main problem. I think the bigger problem is that their own game going forward seems to be very static, and it just can't find the solutions against deep defensive teams.
Do you think that it's a question of, because of the fact that they don't maybe run as much as the other teams do? I'm now like almost scared to say the names in case that I'm getting them all wrong. You know, or press as heavily, that they put more pressure at the on the back, so these guys are sort of left to do individual errors that the others can't, or wouldn't necessarily.
I think the problem is that you know, the fans start booing if they're not 1-0 up by 40 minutes, because Bayern play at the same rhythm the whole time, a little bit like a bad version of Barcelona or Arsenal, you could say. You know, they keep the ball, they play it around, but then nothing really happens. They play it wide to Robben, he gets doubled up, then he plays it back, they leave it off to Ribery on the other side, he gets doubled back, they play it back. So unless they score the first goal, they always struggle. And against Gladbach, who scored first, then they went on to lose. And they only managed to turn around one game this season in the league where they went down 1-0, and that kind of shows you their problems. And you know, all teams will play against them, even the very best teams in the league, and that is their issue. And they just have to be a lot more intense, a lot more dynamic. They, at the moment, I think, as you said, they enjoy letting the ball do the work. They don't really run much. They keep the positions. It's all very nice, but they need a lot more intensity.
We've got obviously with us Andy. Hello, Andy Brassell. How are you?
Hello, how are you all?
Very well, thank you. Do tell us what you think about Bayern Munich's PR stunt, and you know, and obviously the backlash that happened there.
I guess they need to get a social media manager. I don't think it's something you can directly pin on Hoeneß or Rummenigge. I guess it's quite embarrassing for them, but why would they know how to work Facebook?
Well, to be fair, this is the club which prides itself on being, you know, having the highest commercial income of anybody and being so good and being connected with the fans. I would assume there would be some fallout. But I wanted to ask about somebody who's got a lot of press, a lot of excitement in England and elsewhere. And you know where I'm going with this. It's the little big man from Lille, Edin Hazard. There's a story doing the rounds on Twitter everywhere which got us all excited. Chelsea to sign Hazard in the next 48 hours. It came from somebody who's quite well connected. I was frustrated because I wasn't able to find any confirmation whatsoever. He hasn't signed for Chelsea within those 48 hours. He's not going to sign this transfer window, is he?
No, he's not. He was on French television last night, and I think this is where some of the confusion's arisen actually. He was on a program on Canal Plus called Canal Football Club, which has the initial CFC, unfortunately, as well. So there was obviously a lot of people wedging what Hazard tweeted about going onto CFC into Google Translate, interpreting it badly and saying he's off. And this is where it led from. But of course, he was just enjoying a bit of little Sunday night televisual tomfoolery next to Christophe Dugarry, who was giving him a bit of prompting and winding up throughout, as is his wont as a pundit. But Hazard did confirm that he will leave Lille in the summer. He did confirm that England's his preferred choice. He said it's something that he'd thought about for a long time, and having reflected on it for a long time, he decided that PSG was out of the question, that it would be a big club in England. He didn't say which big club it would be, despite Dugarry sitting next to him going, well, I bet you go to Chelsea. And him saying, oh, okay, let's have a few quid on it then. But basically, he was prompted, would he go before Tuesday night? And he said, it's impossible, out of the question. I've still got stuff to win with Lille, and I'm a man of my word.
And what do you think the real reason was, though, that the deal didn't happen now? Was he really intent on staying for another half a year, perhaps with his, you know, with the view of, as you said, doing something with Lille, or was it a question of valuation? I mean, what was the real reason that no move happened this winter break, in your view?
I think it's a bit of both, Raf. Certainly, Lille were keen to get a deal done now and then get him loaned back for the rest of the season. But certainly none of the parties that have shown any sort of interest have been into this at all. That they all wanted to, if they were going to pay the money now, take him now, which is fair enough. That isn't something that's acceptable to Lille, and it's not something acceptable to Hazard. He's someone who's shown all along that you know he's the same age as Mario Balotelli, but they couldn't be more different in the way they are. Hazard's a father. He's very mature. He's lived away from home since he was 14 years old. He's grown up basically in the academy in France, and he's someone who knows his own mind and won't be pushed around. He said when he was talking about the sort of club he wanted to go to, it has to be a big club. It has to be a club that plays the sort of football that will suit me. And he says he thinks English football will suit him. And he says it has to be a club where I'm going to have a first team spot. I don't want to sit in the bench. He said it would be pointless, worthless for me to go somewhere and sit on the bench. So he doesn't want to waste half a season where he could be winning trophies as part of what he knows is a very good team, a very good collective. He wants to start afresh after the summer and really attack this new challenge.
Andy, is it a question of, because we were so sure that he was probably, or at least like quite sure that he might end up at Real Madrid with the Galacticos because of Zidane and how much he loved the players. So is that a reason because he wants to be a star and doesn't want to be playing on the bench that he decided against the idea of going to La Liga?
Yeah, I mean, I think Real Madrid the culture that's there is a big part of it. And it's not just the uncertainty of Mourinho's future, but it's just the uncertainty of Real Madrid generally. I think there's some big players who haven't come off there, who've become lost in the system, who've become a victim of boardroom politics there, and he doesn't want to be part of that. But I think the fact that he has such a good relationship with Joe Cole is part of it as well. Now they've really clicked. Not just on a personal level, but on the pitch as well. They have a telepathic understanding, really. And I think Cole is someone who has a lot of faith in Hazard. I talked to him just before Christmas about Hazard and said, how far do you think he can go? And he said, well, I don't really have any problem with bigging him up and saying that he's world class and going to be one of the best players in the world because he can handle it. And, I think that Hazard has listened a lot to what Cole has said about his experiences in the Premier League, and he will have had something to say to him about life at Chelsea as well. And I think that could be a determining factor in what he does.
Well, it looks like Cole's probably convinced him. Thank you so much for your input, Andy. I'm sure we'll be catching you in the next weeks. That's all we have time for on France and Germany. But do join us after the break, and we'll be talking about the African Cup of Nations, and we'll continue on with our dream team. So we'll see you in a bit. Hello and welcome back to the World Football Show here on Sports Tonight Live. Now we're going to go to our co-presenter Gab. I wanted to talk to you because I know that you love the African Cup of Nations. I'm not such a huge fan of it because I'm one of those people that hates our players to go away.
Because they're your players, right?
Well,
they're
no.
your personal players, right?
I collect them as a hobby.
Exactly.
But
you're in dangerous territory there.
But I do feel sorry for the likes of Udinese and stuff. But of course, I do understand that the tournament is so important to represent your country, all of that. But speaking of, Senegal is out. I had bet on them to win the actual tournament, so I've lost money on that.
Well, me too. I kind of had Senegal down as sort of, the intelligent choice. Like I thought they'd be somewhat overlooked because Ivory Coast and Ghana get most of the hype when they were in the World Cup.
Get the hype for a reason. That's going to be the final.
And
you think so, huh?
So speaks the African football expert here.
Yeah.
But
he's got a finger in every pie.
I was shocked. I mean, I think they were also a little bit disjointed, a little bit unlucky, which is always a risk in a tournament.
We're really unlucky.
But no, I mean, I think that's the first big scalp to fall. I'm starting to think that, because I can't see Ivory Coast winning this.
Why not?
Because the pieces don't fit together.
But we're talking about international football, as you know, the pieces don't really fit together
But
ever.
in international football, with the exception of Spain, for example, in the last Euros and World Cup, generally the rule is the best team, the most talented team, usually doesn't win.
Really?
And yeah, I mean, I'd argue.
I was pretty sure Italy deserved 2000.
I think they deserved it, but that doesn't mean that they're the most talented team on paper.
Oh, I see what you mean.
So we put those things together, and I don't know. I mean, I think we could have a surprise.
Are you thinking that Equatorial Guinea could take it?
I hope not, because I don't think God would allow that to happen.
I'm glad you said that, because there seems to be this massive, I was reading my timeline and it was all like, we're really hoping they're winning it, and everyone seems to be on their side. And
it's just such a lovely country.
Yeah.
But it's amazing how many people don't understand what's going on and how much support that they're getting from around the world.
Well,
and I was posting all these articles being like, do you know anything about this country?
I hope you posted my column I wrote in the Times, absolutely savaging them and
Just
saying
no one can access it because of subscription.
Right, because everybody likes to steal content from elsewhere.
For free.
Exactly. Or create a website which dumps free content everywhere to drive others out of business, and then it's going to go business itself. But that's another story for the show. But no, on passing value judgment, ultimately the Ecuador-Guinean players, they're footballers like everybody else. They're in that situation. I mean, Rafi, if they had approached you to play football for Equatorial Guinea, we're willing to give a lot of money, and you can play international football,
I'd be in.
you'd be in, right? Exactly. So I think a lot of us, when faced with the same decision, I think you can blame the players, but it is good to bear in mind what has gone on here.
Okay, well, sadly, that's all we have time for on the African Cup of Nations. But it is my favourite part now, which is our dream team. And we now can reveal the results of who won for the right-sided midfielder. I don't actually remember who you went for the last time. But anyway, Gab. Figo won at 32%. I had lots of people tweeting me with my choice, Beckham, who came at 20%, second. Of course, he always comes third in this. But everyone was like, are you being serious? You actually chose Beckham?
Yeah. Are you serious? You actually chose Beckham?
Well, look, he's second. Look, I was trying to appeal to a wider audience because apparently I'm always going for players that, played in Serie A.
He played in Serie A.
He did play in Serie A, exactly.
Okay, well, Milan, but he wasn't...
He hardly played.
Okay, but you can't really consider Milan, like he was a big performer in the way that, Figo was,
Figo for Inter. There's another former Serie A player.
That's what I'm saying. But I didn't want to mention Figo because of the fact that he was... Anyway, God, you guys have to pick holes with everything I say.
How can Xavi, Saint Xavi as I like to call him personally,
you were just trying to
only have
wind me up.
6%? It's a travesty.
It is a travesty.
I demand a recount.
You think he's the greatest of all time, right?
Well, of that list, I mean, Garincha, you could say.
Garincha is also more of a
Garincha. Anyway, we don't have time to debate this. Gab, who have you gone for the left-sided midfielder?
I'm going to go with Marco Tardelli. When we say left side, it's a left side of a three. Let's be very clear about this.
4-3-3.
It's not a winger, so
it's
it's basically you can pick any central midfielder. I'm going for Marco Tardelli solely because Rafi's here and to remind him of the 1982 World Cup final and the brilliant celebration.
My favourite player, actually, one of my favourites. And you, darling?
I would go for a player that Gabriele would have enjoyed in his youth days, playing for a team that he likes, or used to like, Lothar Matthäus. Not necessarily a left-sided player, but of course, if you're playing with three in the middle,
exactly.
My
he would be
producer's
fantastic.
going mad because he's like, he's defensive.
No, he's not defensive.
No, he's,
Whatever he was not a defensive midfielder.
In fact, even when he was playing in defence, I might have argued he wasn't quite as defensive.
Just look up his stats and look up his goals.
And look up Lothar Matthäus stomping on, and you'd like this too, given your feelings on Real Madrid. Look up Lothar Matthäus stomping on Juanito's head. This is when he was very young. I think when he still was at Borussia Mönchengladbach.
I like a fiery man.
Exactly. One of those old school European Cup type YouTube videos. Brilliant.
Well, our viewers voted for him as a defensive midfielder at the time, but okay, we're going to go.
We'll give it another shot.
Okay, well, we'll give him another shot. I'm going for Pavel Nedved because I thought, solid, let me just go for the player I want. A lot because of the fact that him and his wife Ivana have named their children Pavel and Ivana. But I mean, let's be serious. This is a guy when, Juventus lost Zidane, in came Nedved, won everything with them. Well, not everything with them, actually. Came close to winning the Champions League with them. But unfortunately, he didn't play the last match against Milan. Terrific player, just for his ambition, for the way he was on the field. Honourable, except for that tackle on Figo.
Former Ballon d'Or winner.
Former
well.
Ballon d'Or
It says more about the Ballon d'Or than it does about him. But
excuse me, what was that comment? It's very snide.
It says a lot about the Ballon d'Or. The Ballon d'Or voters who are very sage, and they voted for him. So that.
Anyway, do get in touch with us, please, with your votes. Who do you think? Am I right? Are they right? Who do you want to win? Please tweet us at STWorldFootball. Did you guys enjoy the show?
Always.
It's always fun when you're on form,
She's always on form.
Exactly.
So it's always fun.
Okay, right. well, that's all we have time for today. Please join us next week when I will be joined by my co-presenter, Gab Marcotti, and hopefully we'll still have Raf with us. We'll see you next week, same time, same place, same football chat. Bye.